It's called a gallery wall, and it's a small gallery wall, so we're calling it a mini gallery wall, and we are only using one transfer, Brocante Transfer, which has 8 pages of elements. So we have lots and lots to work with. I did what anybody would do when you're gonna make a gallery wall, is you gotta plan it out. So the first thing I did is I decided how big I needed my pieces to be, because this is 36 inches and we only had 36 by 38 inches on a wall that we needed. So the first thing I did was start my first project, which was, this is an old board. It was actually a signboard which we have cut down. We actually repainted it. It had, I don't know what it had on it, something else, but it wasn't, it was dated. And we put this beautiful, this is one of the elements in the Brocante, and we put the 2 birds on the end, and that is the top. So we have 8 elements in total. We are using the IOD Project Boards, and these all have paint on them, so I'm gonna have to be a little careful moving them. So this one is already painted, but the project boards come in, I think, maybe 6 or 7 different sizes. I'm sorry, I didn't look that up. But they have a nice frame around them, and you can use them on either side, and you'll see we are using them on both sides. This paint is wet, so I'm holding it in a funny way. So I've got almost all of them prepped and ready to go. There's no way I could finish 8 projects in an hour, so I've kind of planned ahead. I've got some of them ready to have the transfer adhere to them. Some of them still need a top coat, but they've all got some kind of prep, so we can at least see what it's going to look like. And then at the end of our video, I'd like to kind of put them out on this table. This is a pretty big work table, so you can see what it's going to look like on the wall. This one is done, totally done. It is all painted and sealed, and this is the first one, so I'm going to move this off the table. Some of them we've already cut, and some of them we haven't. We're going to be using this one. We're going to be using these bees. We've cut 2. The transfer comes with 4 of these French labels, and we are going to be using 2 of them. You can see there's a lot of elements, and this is the other botanical that we're going to be using. We're going to be using 2 of the large botanicals. And then if you notice, there is still so much left. This transfer is just amazing. I did prep my 8 different elements, actually 7, because I finished that one. And what I did is I did 2 of them the same. And this is one that I have just put a top coat on, and this is ready for this element. So we are going to go ahead and put that on. And what we did is it's the 8 by 8. This fits perfectly on the 8 by 8. This stamp that I used on this one is the Vintage Textures, and I used almost all of them with varying colors and had layer upon layer of colors because I wanted some cohesiveness in my final design. So there's a little bit of this ballet pink, there's gray, and there's this off-white, and those are the 3 colors that I'm using. This is just one of the elements off of the Brocante Transfer. This is the whole element, and it probably is one of the most insignificant elements that there is, but I did a little bit of texture paint in one color and then sanded it back, and this is one of our finals. It's actually all done. It's been sealed and it's ready. All right, I'm going to put this one down. This is our other, we have 2 8 by 8s, and this is the other 8 by 8, which is simply getting a label on it. Oh, I love this. I've been planning this particular design for so long, I couldn't wait to do it. Okay, so I got that all down. Is everybody off? Okay. So So there is one of the parts to my gallery wall. That is one of the labels. Okay, then I have another, we're doing two of those, we're gonna call them labels, I think that's what they are. And this one is going, it's the same, cut from the same piece. This is going in an 8x10 using the opposite. And we cut this one down a little bit. This one is at 8x10, that one was an 8x8. But I did choose both of the ones with coins. And these are all have a top coat on them. Even though I used a chalk style paint, I did put a varnish over the top. So that one used almost every one of the vintage textures for the background. And this one, I simply used, oh I love it, the crackle. So look at that one. So here's two more elements, almost done. These two, for the backgrounds, have the kindness regard stamp. And again, I just did a little bit of dark gray around the edges, but these two need top coat. So we're gonna put top coat on them right now. So this extra little gray here, what I do is after I used a roller, I rolled the paint on, and once the roller is almost totally dry, there's very little paint, I just go around to kind of make it look like an old letter. Just put a little bit of that paint here and there. And then because we've already done this one and it's all set, I'm going to just go ahead and top coat this before I do any sanding there. Okay, so that one's been sealed. Let's seal this one. You can just do one of these if you've already used your Brocante and you just have a few of these elements left. They're so fun. And if you don't have project boards, just use whatever boards you have. Whatever wood. We recycle and reuse a ton of wood. Okay, so that one is ready. That one is ready. When you have 8 different ones you're doing. Okay, so I am ready to do one of these big boards with that one. Like I said, I love that vintage textures. This is the largest board. It's similar to the one we just did. It's the 12x16. Yep, they're all the same. So you could use both sides, and you could actually use both sides, change it around, do something else, because these are flat. We're not using any molds or anything, so they could be do both sides. This is again the vintage texture. This is the peely paint. They're 6x6 squares. They're all 4 of them come in one pack, and I just kept twisting it and repeating it so it didn't look exactly the same. So we are using this giant element. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, and we might need something else. I don't know when we're done, but let's see. We're going to use this big floral because I love botanicals. So we're going to see how this one comes out. This is just one of the big rooms. Botanicals. But maybe I can guesstimate. The typography on this one is going to be a little subtle because it is kind of the same color as the background. I guess you could see it a little bit. It's not too bright, but that's okay. Let's see how we did. Here we go. Oh. Okay, I just think this is gorgeous. So it is off-white paint, which then had a gray chalk style paint, which I applied with the roller onto the stamp. And it is the peely paint, one of the, excuse me, the vintage textures. And I'm going to want to add a little more gray around the edges to this one, so I'm not going to go ahead and seal it yet. I mean, you can kind of see if you move around over here how they go together, how these different ones go together. So this is my board. And this is this board. and it is actually going to be similar to this board. It's the same color as the top board, and it's going to ground the design, and it is going to have bees on it. Okay, there's your bee. Another one of my favorite parts, chickens. I love all the critters on this one. Need some words for this. You know, I don't like anything without a little bit of typography on it. So this particular one, we used a paint which had a built-in top coat. Okay, so usually I don't do all the sanding and stuff. I do that afterwards, but this is pretty dry, and I really wanted you to see what happens when we sand back with this. So this is like 3 layers of paint with the additive in it to get it rough. But what you start to see is the colors underneath, which gives you that vintage texture. But we need a little rougher piece of sandpaper. There's a big piece that didn't get all flattened out, which is fine. I wanted to have lots of different variations. Like I said, I couldn't wait to use these two in 2 different ways, just to show you how much you can do with this. The same exact transfer, not exact, but from the same page. I am going to just hit my edge with this to just pull it in. All right, so this one is done. When the ink dries, we'll put a top coat on it, and that'll pull out all this. You can't see the colors, but it'll darken all of the other color that's underneath, which I sanded back to. And the other thing you can do is, I'm going to get a little bit more of this gray in the corners. You can always use a paintbrush. So that one is done. Okay. Again, I'm just taking my ink pad and going along the edge for a little bit of depth there. All right, this one's ready. Can I switch with you?
You sure can. Go ahead.
All right, so we know how good that one comes out. Now we have another one to do, which again, this is going to be the other large botanical. This one, I think that typography goes all the way across the bottom. So we are leaving it. Okay.
Nice.
Again, it's going to be really subtle because we used the same gray. But we're ready to go. Here we go, another one. I'll use the same tape I already have.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this one again, and I'm putting it. Normally I would move this, but it cuts up the typography that's on the bottom, so I'm not going to move it over. Besides, off-centered is one of my favorite things. So the background of this one is the Kindness Regard stamp, just inked and stamped randomly. So that all we want is the design to see the typography, not necessarily see that it was a letter. I can see that I have it all transferred. There's nothing left on this paper. All right, this one is done, guys. Let's see if we love this one. Here's the one with the Kindness Regards. And that one looks a little more vintage than this one does. But I love them both. And again, like I said, we'll put a little more around the edges. So there's another one. So we are building our gallery wall. We are on the last piece of our gallery wall. And I'm going to cut that one out. Even if it's not exactly perfect, I like it to look like it's even better. Grab a little piece of that tape again.
Cheryl.
That one moved a little, but it hadn't gone down yet. This is the last one. But here's my last piece for today. And then I'm going to real quickly see if I can get them set up in some kind of a way for you guys to see.